We're going to talk about picking your lawyer. First of all, a little bit about me. I'm Wayne Zell. I'm a partner with a law firm in Ruston known as Odin, Feldman, and Pittleman, and we are a 60-lawyer full-service firm serving clients throughout the DC metro area and across the country. If you want to know more about us, visit us on the web. It's ofplaw.com. And I also have a radio show that up until March the 30th was called Blueprint for Wealth, and now the whole firm is sort of participating. We call it Power of Attorney. And it's every Saturday on Federal News Radio at 10 o'clock, and we offer legal advice on developments affecting individuals and businesses. It's really not legal advice, it's educational programming, so I invite you to that. I've been practicing first as a CPA and then as a tax lawyer for 32 years. So I've been doing this a long time and losing my hair and getting older, and but I haven't lost my will and my passion for it. And I've been able to see law practiced from a variety of different perspectives. From very, very big firms. I was with Venable and a firm called Mintz Levin out of Boston. I was with the public accounting firms, you know, Price Waterhouse, Coopers, Arthur Anderson, early in my career. And I had my own firm for 7 years. So it was just me and other lawyers who I brought on board, and I ran my own business. And I also got out into business, into the business world, where I was a CFO and general counsel of a company that was funded by George Soros for a couple of years. So I've seen it from all different perspectives. Now I merged my firm with Odin, Feldman, and Pittleman, and part of the reason I did that was because of what I'm going to talk about a little bit today, and tell you a little bit about today, and answer your questions too, because this is not about me talking to you. I want you to ask me questions so that I can give you ideas on what you should be looking for when you're hiring a lawyer. There's so many flavors of lawyers around Washington. I grew up in Washington. I grew up in Bethesda, was born in DC, lived in Washington my whole life. One of the few people, I guess, maybe you all, did you all grow up in Washington? You didn't grow up? You didn't grow up in Washington, really? Did you grow up in Washington?
Fairfax, yeah.
Fairfax, okay, how about you?
Yep, Fairfax.
Fairfax. Did you grow up in DC? You're from DC also? Awesome, awesome. So we've got a lot of natives here. Larry, where were you born?
Virginia.
So you're fairly close, but we're not going to call you a Washingtonian because you're outside of the area. Jason, what about you?
Maryland.
Maryland, okay.
Oh.
We're in Maryland.
Montgomery County.
That's where I grew up. Montgomery County. Where'd you go to high school?
Seneca Valley.
Okay, boo. I went to Churchill.
See in the parking lot.
That's right. So the idea is when you're looking for a lawyer in Washington, we have, unfortunately or fortunately, we have more choices than we know what to do. The downtown lawyers, the big law firms, they're typically focused on regulatory practice. So they focus on administrative law, or they'll focus on very narrow areas of practice. And I've participated in that realm, and it's very heady and very sophisticated and very cool. And they make lots of money. Or they'll do transactions. And when they do transactions, the downtown lawyers and the big law firms are making upwards of $2 million to $3 million a year in terms of their compensation. Then you move out into the suburbs where we make less, but we're happier. And the reason we're happier is because we're doing what we want and we're trying to help our clients. And most of our clients, at least the clients that I work with, the biggest clients I have are upwards of 500 million. Maybe we have one client towards $1 billion in revenue. Most of my clients are $1 to $50 million. They're small businesses. And I love working with them. Entrepreneurs, tech companies, government contractors, restaurant businesses, lenders, venture capitalists, investment bankers, you name it, I've worked with them over the years. So the question is, who are you looking for to represent? So the flavor comes from the really big firm which charges on an hourly rate anywhere from $700 to $1,000 or more dollars an hour, to the local practices that might charge anywhere from $200 to $500 an hour, depending on what you're looking for. And then a lot of lawyers are now charging fixed fees for services that they provide. So the question is, what do you need? So the first question you always should ask is, what kind of lawyer, what type of lawyer do I need? Do I need a real estate lawyer, somebody who specializes in real estate? Do I need a tax lawyer, or an estate planner, or a corporate lawyer? Do I need a litigator? The bulldog, the shark, the ones that have the negative connotations. But sometimes you do need to protect yourself, protect your rights, and they're good lawyers to have in your corner. So first figure out what you need. The lawyer that says to you, well, I do divorce, and I do litigation, oh, and I do real estate, and I do tax, I do estate planning, that's the lawyer you should stay away from. Unless they have people in their firm that can help you, that specialize. So first figure out what you need. Second thing that I can offer to you is figure out the level of experience that you need to accomplish the task that you're setting out to do. So if you're starting out a new business that's raising capital from investors, and you're going to be deploying that capital into the marketplace, doing whatever you do, one of the most important things that you would need is a securities lawyer and a corporate lawyer, somebody who understands the do's and don'ts of raising money from third parties. On the other hand, if you're in commercial real estate, then you'd better have a darn good commercial real estate lawyer in your corner. In our firm, we have 5 or 6 commercial real estate lawyers. That's all they do. They do leases, they do purchases, they do sales, they do debt financing, they do transactions with real estate, they do business setups. But the idea is find somebody that meets your needs and then figure out how much experience you really need. Do you have an expensive asset that you're about to acquire or sell? Is there a lot of risk associated with what you're doing? I tend to go for somebody with a little more experience and pay a little bit more for that person. Another characteristic I look for in a lawyer, whether I'm hiring a lawyer, because I've had to hire lawyers before as a trustee. I've served as a trustee of trusts. So invariably, beneficiaries don't like what the trustee is doing, so you've got to have outside counsel representing you. So I've actually hired outside counsel. So I'm looking for somebody with the experience and the expertise, but also responsiveness. I make it a rule to pick up my phone when somebody calls me. May or may not be good, because I may be just focused on something and they call me and I'm, what's the matter, Sandy? But the idea is responsiveness. Picking up the phone, returning phone calls if you leave a message, and answering emails. The biggest thing that you can do as a lawyer is not do that, is not be responsive to your clients. You'll lose more clients in your career if you do that. So responsiveness is huge, and I've been able to retain probably about 95% of all my clients over my career, and that's a really good statistic for a lawyer. Next is communication. You've got to be able to listen to your clients. A lot of lawyers like to talk. You'll find that if you have experience with certain lawyers. The good lawyers are the ones that let you talk, that listen to you, and ask you questions, and are genuinely focused on you and your concerns and what your needs, fears, wishes, desires are. So a good listener is number one. And then comes the speaker and the writer. So having good oratory skills is particularly important for an advocate, somebody who's going to get up in court for you, or somebody who's negotiating a transaction on your behalf. You want somebody who's good with words, and good with examples, and good with stories. And a good storyteller is always worth his weight or her weight in gold. And then writing. Somebody who's a good writer, a good drafter, a good contract drafter, a good document drafter. All of those things are really important. But I'd say those last two things are secondary to the listener, because the listener is going to hear what you have to say and then either try to provide solutions for you or connect you with somebody who can. So one of my roles at my firm, and I can say, fortunately, I've been very successful, is I manage a lot of relationships. I have a lot of clients. People come to me with every kind of question. I had somebody call me the other day that their son was arrested for DUI. I don't do that type of work. I've got 2 lawyers in the firm who are excellent. Probably 2 of the best in Fairfax County at getting people off of these types of things. And refer the case to them. Luckily, that's one of the reasons I joined the firm, is because I've got 59 other lawyers that I can turn to when I have these types of questions. I get somebody calling me, the other day, who's an estate planning client, and says, well, I'm getting divorced from so-and-so. Sorry to hear that. We can't represent you because we represented your spouse in the estate planning, so it would be a conflict of interest. But we can refer you out to somebody. So I want to help you. That's my job. So we refer the client out to another lawyer. We know that someday those things will come back to us. We don't ask for compensation for that. We just refer them out to somebody who's going to help them in a manner that they want to be handled. If it's a divorce lawyer, is it a bulldog, shark, pit bull type that's going to go down to the ground and wrestle on every issue? Or is it somebody who's a conciliator, a mediator, somebody who's going to get the deal done, so to speak? Talk to the client, find out what their needs are, figure out who the best fit would be. And if you don't have somebody in your firm to handle, say, an international transaction, which we really don't, we'll refer them out. Or patent law. We don't have patent lawyers at our firm. We have intellectual property, we do trademark, copyright, but the patent lawyers, we have relationships with other people around town that we refer out. Next on my list, if I'm looking for somebody to represent me as a counsel, is I want somebody who's focused on value. The law practice has gotten kind of skewed out of whack in terms of the billable hour. People who are lawyers are compensated based on the amount of time that they work and get compensated for. So the more billable hours they have, the more money they make. I think it's led to a real upside downness of the whole business of practicing law. What we forgot was why we got into practicing law in the first place. As a lawyer, again, my job, much like a doctor, is first do no harm and help the client as much as possible. Sometimes that means I can't bill the client for the time that's spent, and that's value-oriented focus. So you want a lawyer that's value-focused. When we handle estate planning matters, we usually bill on a fixed fee basis. When we do certain corporate transactions, we bill on a fixed fee basis. And if we lock ourselves into that fee, we're stuck with it. Sometimes clients take advantage of that. Other times, maybe we'll do okay. But the idea is, based on experience, I think we have a lot of understanding of what the value is that we're bringing to the client for doing particular tasks. The last thing I have to say about hiring a lawyer is, who do you go to and how do you know it's the right person? Personality and fit is really important when you go to a lawyer. So some types of clients I cannot interface with. The extremely old clients, and I do estate planning. I'm a guy that likes dealing with small business owners, entrepreneurs, younger, folks younger than I am, who like business, who like to grow things, who like to develop and grow. Those are my target clients. Those are the ones I know who do well with. The 90-year-old who wants to sit and chat about their hemorrhoids is not really my chosen focus. But I have people at the firm who love dealing with the older folks. And so I bring them in to handle them because they have very soft touches, very soft hands. So the idea is to have somebody who you feel that you can work with from a personality and fit type. And then go to your financial advisors. Go to your business planners. Go to your CPAs, because they'll know a lot of people around the community that may be perfect for you based on what your needs are, what you've described your needs to be. And so interfacing with your other professionals, I think, is a really, really important lesson. So those are the things I would look for in hiring a lawyer. Price sometimes is very important to you because you can't afford to spend $800 an hour for a lawyer, but it shouldn't be the only concern. But it is a good idea to get an estimate of what something's going to cost up front, or at least try to get a range of fees. Any questions about this? What are you looking for in a lawyer? So, yes?
I have a question. I'd like to hear your opinion on the firms that are mass marketing, such as your Legal Shield, prepaid, alias services.
Mass marketing. Well, lawyers are not supposed to mass market because it's against ethical rules to do that. But you see them on the television, right?
Right.
Personal injury firms, they're classic. Those that are pursuing massive torts, for toxic, asbestos-related claims, things like that. I think those types of firms are what we call class action firms, and they're looking to get a whole bunch of people, at least 35, to represent in an action against somebody who produced something, manufactured something, sold something in commerce. I don't have a very fond opinion of those types of lawyers, but I guess there's a need for them in the marketplace. If I were looking at hiring a lawyer to do estate planning, I would want to go to somebody that fits my price range, what I need, based on what I have in terms of assets and based on what I have in terms of what I'm going to pass on to the next generation. So that's a different, market. Divorce lawyers, you don't need to, you're not going to go to a very big firm because they typically don't have divorce lawyers. So mass marketed firms are typically the ones that are on TV, the ones that you see, late night TV, things like that. And the bar rules of the 50 states and District of Columbia now allow that to happen, but I'm not really fond of that type of marketing. I'm more fond of the educational marketers, the people who are trying to teach something of value, allowing you to take something away. So when you listen to our radio show, you're hopefully listening not to somebody talking about Odin, Feldman, and Pittleman all day. What they're talking about is a topic that might be of interest to you, and then hopefully it'll be something that you can take away with you, and if you want to learn more about it, you can always call us, but we're not soliciting you. And so I have a different view of that.
In particular, not only the mass market attorneys, but the independent representatives for prepaid legal, or I think it's Legal Shield, or those types of firms, which state one firm in Richmond that represents the whole region, etc. Is what would you recommend, or what's your opinion on those types of firms? Would you recommend them for small business owners because they have business packages and they have packages for individuals?
Yeah, I mean, check it out. I am not a fan of it because as a tax lawyer, there's so many nuances and so many questions that you may have that they clearly are not going to be able to answer. They don't have people with my experience on staff, I can tell you that. But they may be able to get you set up, just like going to LegalZoom.com or something, with a corporation. The problem is if you have any permutation out of the norm of what their questionnaire allows or their checklist allows, you're not going to be able to get anybody to answer that question competently. And that's the thing I would worry about as a small business owner. But then if you don't, if it's just you and you're not taking in outside investors and you're not bringing in a whole bunch of employees and you're just going to be a consultant, you may not need a whole lot more than that. But then the question is, well, should I elect S corporation status? They're not going to be able to answer that. So there is a value there because they're going to charge you less than you're going to be paying to a lawyer like me. But then again, you may get a lot more value from me because I may have a lot of experience that I can tell you, don't do that, do this. This is what you want to do based on what I've heard you say. So having that experience level for a fixed fee to set up your entity, to do your contracts, to provide templates for you, may be of greater value than using a legal services type entity. So I caution you on that, but that's not to say that there's not a place for it. People who really can't afford legal services really get a lot of value out of those types of services.
If I can add to that, I've seen a couple circumstances where I've had a client, she created an estate plan, but she did it with the cookie cutter version based on lawyer.com or whatever it was. Well, in the end, when her husband passed, the house was in the trust and she couldn't touch it. She could live in the house, but guess what? She still had to pay the mortgage, and the daughter of her husband that passed away was in charge of that, owned the house. So she was stuck. So the problem is when you use these kind of one-stop solutions when it comes to law, you can get in trouble.
Yeah, you gotta know what you're signing, and oftentimes the devil's in the details. So I would encourage you, even if it's a small practice, not 60 lawyers, if it's 5 lawyers, or 2 lawyers, or 1 lawyer, you may get a lot more value out of it.